Hello, my name is Hannah Ferricks. My project is regarding negative behaviors displayed among children raised by grandparents. A little background on why I chose this topic. I took a research course last year in which I analyzed the negative physical and emotional consequences of raising grandchildren. I wanted to piggyback off of that project and learn as much as I could about children raised by grandparents. For many decades now, the number of children raised by grandparents has been steadily increasing. Some of the causes for this include parental incarceration, substance abuse, mental illness, child abandonment, and domestic violence. Grandparents are taking on this caregiver role because there is an increased awareness of maintaining familial relationships. Children typically do better when they are placed with family members. There's also a shortage of non-relative caregivers. Children raised by grandparents have been shown to need more emotional, medical, and behavioral support. A notable find in the literature is grandparent-headed households have disproportionately high rates of poverty, especially among the African American communities. Children run the risk of being uninsured. Often grandparents are unaware of public health insurance or options similar. Children raised by grandparents suffer from unresolved loss, feelings of rejection, abandonment, anxiety, poor coping strategies, avoidance, distraction, and are likely to be diagnosed with oppositional defiant disorder, thus escalating their chances of engaging in negative or risky behaviors. The overarching theoretical framework is Bronfenbrenner's bioecological theory. The theory is based around the individual and their environment and considers relationships individuals have with their communities and greater society. There are 5 systems. Many of the problems that children being raised by grandparents face occur at multiple levels. For example, these children are more likely to live in poverty, lack access to health insurance, attend low-performing schools, and have fewer positive role models in their lives. Each of these systems unavoidably interacts with one another and in turn significantly influences all aspects of a child's life. This is a quantitative study. I utilized a secondary data set from the 2016 Iowa Youth Survey. The survey is administered to both public and non-public schools across the state of Iowa. I used responses from 8th and 11th graders. My rationale of this is because it is assumed 8th and 11th graders are more likely to engage in negative or risky behaviors compared to 6th graders. The purpose of this research is to identify behavioral differences among children raised by grandparents and children raised by parents. The results of this study will help aid in finding solutions for the difficulties this certain population faces. My hypothesis is children who are raised by grandparents are more likely to engage in negative behaviors compared to children who are raised by parents. For my analyses, I ran 2 chi-squares and 1 2-sample t-test. The questions I utilized from the survey were if 8th and 11th graders had used marijuana, if they had ever skipped class, and if they had ever attempted suicide. My most prominent find in my research and through the analysis was the suicide attempt. So we can see here the chi-square. 1 is yes, 2 is no. So the amount of responses for 1, yes, 2, no. 0 was coded as students raised by 1 or 2 parents. 1 was coded as students raised by grandparents. So with the chi-square, we can see that 1,977 students raised by 1 or 2 parents reported yes, they had attempted suicide. For grandparents, 136 students raised by grandparents reported that they had attempted suicide. What would be normally distributed or to be expected from students raised by one or two parents is 2,063. So the actual amount of students who reported yes was lower than what was normally distributed or to be expected. However, students raised by grandparents, we can see that what was to be normally distributed or to be expected was about 50 students reporting yes. Now, with 136 total yes responses from children raised by grandparents, that's almost 3 times what was to be expected. And this is very significant. We can see here that the p-value was 0. So to me, this is a significant problem. And the 2016 Iowa Youth Survey, this is what was reflected from those results. Some of my recommendations are raising awareness for this particular population. I feel as though these children, especially in the school systems, are often looked over or not given much thought about. There also needs to be community and school-based services for children and families. Support groups and mentors for this population would encourage children to make healthy and appropriate decisions to ensure their well-being. As well as these children need access to public benefits, particularly Medicaid, to make sure they're not going uninsured. And if they are having physical or psychological issues, they are able to address them appropriately with a medical professional. Thank you for taking time to listen to my presentation. Do not hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions. My contact information can be found at the top of the poster. Again, thank you so much.